right now, and we are unmuted.
Okay.
And we will record.
$6 Mrs. Green.
Okay. I'm looking at my Chromebook. It said 5:59, so I was just waiting.
Nope.
All right, we'll go ahead and start. Welcome to the November 17th regular meeting of the Huron City Schools Board of Education. Randy, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Jones. Here. Mrs. Mask.
Here.
Mr. Slocum.
Here.
Mr. Ward.
Here.
Mrs. Green.
Here. Would you all stand, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we need a motion to approve tonight's agenda. So moved. Thank you, Jody. Second, John. Randy?
Oh, this for, just a quick, change. I'm sorry for the vote. On
Oh.
in my recommendations, I'm sneaking in one on you. No. There will be an item, we know I didn't do this, but, I mean, on item F, new fund and acceptance of grants. We got a check yesterday for almost $17,000 for, preschool for COVID related supplies and stuff. And so I thought you wouldn't mind sneaking that one in so we can spend that money.
Okay,
So there's an item F under my report. That's the only change. Sorry about that.
that's okay. All right, do we need to change that then?
As long as you're
Okay,
okay with the amendments.
all right.
All right, Mrs. Mask.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Slocum.
Yes.
Mr. Jones. Yes. Mrs. Green.
Yes. Okay, now we need a motion to approve the minutes from our last two meetings.
So move.
Second.
Thank you. Paul and Scott?
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Slocum.
Yes.
Mr. Jones. Yes. Mrs. Mask.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes. Okay, we're on to audience participation now. Before we start, I would just like to ask everybody for a small round of applause for our girls volleyball team. Yay! I talked to one of the mothers today and I said, this is a bright spot in a really sucky year. So I'm really, really happy for the girls and for our district. Okay, with community participation, we limit it to 30 minutes. You have up to 5 minutes to speak. Obviously, there's more than 6 people in here, so hopefully if you're kind of referencing the same response, you might want to, try to keep it brief and to the point so that everybody can speak. So we'll go ahead and get started. Make sure you state your name and your address to begin. Who would like to address the board first? Okay.
Hi, my name is Teresa Graybill. My address is 906 Salem, here in town. And I would like to address the board regarding the return to 5 days in the classroom, as I think probably most of us here would like to discuss.
Okay.
And I guess I haven't gotten enough good answers from Mr. Moratory and from the board as to why you think that's the best option. I am a substitute teacher. I've been in the classroom. I know that your mitigation strategies work, and I applaud all of the teachers and students for working so hard to keep our COVID numbers down. And I think you're right when you said, Mr. Murray, at the last Zoom meeting, that our numbers probably aren't coming from in the classroom. They're coming from things that are happening outside, and then that's being brought into the school. That's my concern if we go back to 5 days. With an increase in numbers in Ohio, increase across the nation, I'm concerned that we're making a hasty decision to send the kids back 5 days. I understand we would continue the mitigation. My concern is the social distancing, which will be drastically reduced and then in the classroom. Not all classrooms can accommodate 6 feet, even 3 feet. So that's one of the biggest mitigation strategies in addition to wearing masks. And that can't be met. I just don't think it's a good idea right now to choose to send our kids back. In addition, speaking from a teacher's point of view, and I've asked Mr. Murgatroyd 3 times and have not gotten a direct answer. Have you consulted the teachers on what their preference is to going back 5 days, hybrid or remote? And I don't want to just know that you guys have talked about it. I guess I want to know, what does the majority of the teachers prefer?
Are you asking me now?
Sure, or anybody else who
Sure.
can answer that.
Well, first of all, and we have many teachers here, we are so grateful for the work of our teachers. We would not be able to even consider this conversation without our teachers and the work, and not just our teachers, our support staff. And I have answered you multiple times, but what I've said all along is we did survey our teachers approximately a month ago, early April or early October, when obviously things were starting to ramp up. I had met several times with our union leadership, and we have talked about our learning model, which has included 5 days. I have conducted 2 virtual all-staff meetings, October 21st and November 12th, conducted a question and answer with that as well. And our teachers since July have been sitting on our building restart teams. So we've had teachers, support staff, administrators working arm in arm. So, because we absolutely value the input and the suggestions. And much of the strategies that we've done have been a direct result of our faculty and staff.
That's awesome. I love that you have been consulting with the teachers and that they're working on plans. We definitely need to make sure that each plan, it has the support of the teachers and that they know what they're doing. If we're going on remote or we're going back 5 days. I have not that answer, and I understand that. My question is, what is the preference of the teachers? Do they want to go back 5 days now? Not a month ago, now.
Well,
Do we have a majority?
when we never did. And let me take it a little bit further. Not only did we survey them, I went and personally interviewed several of our teachers. And I'm a teacher by trade, so I understand the concerns. They are frontline workers. I get it, the nurses, the doctors, et cetera, but our teachers are frontline, and our bus drivers, our cafeteria staff. So when I talked to them, really what I heard was an absolute torn message. And I interviewed almost 30 faculty and staff. That includes bus drivers, custodians, maintenance personnel, teachers. Very torn, which I think is, to me as a parent of kids in my district, our district, makes me feel really well, because I would hear some very compelling personal stories of why they're scared. Examples, I'm the only person that my elderly parent has. I would hear those stories. That is absolutely reasonable. That is compelling, but just as compelling, the next word out of almost every one of their mouths was, I'm so worried about my kids because there's no engagement at home. They don't have the resources. I'm so worried. 18 months ago, we went through a rash of tragedy in our district, our community. That is front and center on the minds of our educators. So when I hear that 40% are concerned and only 40% want to return, 60 do not, it's not surprising to me. When you ask them that absolute answer that deserves either a yes or no, that's a reasonable response. But it's absolutely of concern for personal reasons, their individual story, but also torn for the well-being of their children. So that's not a surprising response. I live with it. My wife's an educator, very concerned. So that does not surprise me.
So what I hear you saying is a majority of the teachers don't want to go back to 5-day in-person classes at this point.
They are concerned. They are concerned.
So the majority are concerned about going back 5 days a week. I would like to ask the board for a revote. I don't think you got enough community input. I don't think you got enough parent input, and I definitely do not think you got enough teacher input as to whether or not we should go back 5 days. And I would implore the board to reconsider that decision and to consider hearing maybe from more of us here tonight and reconsider that vote.
Thank you. Would someone else like to speak?
Did not come here planning to speak, but I'm going to. My name is Tyler Tooman. I live at 3005 Shine Road. I'm confused. That's why I came tonight, because we got a letter back in October saying that, Mr. Murator, you were going to make a recommendation to the board to go back 5 days a week. Then we got another letter saying that you weren't going to do that because of new information with the health department and everything that's going on. Things only got worse, and now we're talking about 5 days a week. It makes no sense. So if somebody could please share and let me know why you came to that decision, I'd like to know.
I could share why I pulled my recommendation. Approximately 6 hours before the board meeting, I received a memo. This was mid-October from the Erie County Health Department. It stated the obvious, that cases were rising, but what really concerned me was where the cases were rising. If I recall verbatim, it would in households in the general community, whereas in August and July, it was in long-term care facilities. So I was very concerned with that. And over the time, as I watched the numbers continue to go, the numbers of what was impacting us directly in our district were not rising proportionately to that. So as an advisor to the board, I presented to the board 3 options that we had back in July in our plan, written plan, that states we have 3 options: a full remote, a hybrid, or a full return. And I felt that it was worthy for the board to have conversation along with myself based on the internal data that we had. At the time of the recommendation, I believe, right now we're at 17 total cases for our district. In our 12th week of school, we are averaging a little less than 2. Over the last 2 weeks, we're averaging 3 cases a week. So my question to the board and to my admin team is 3 cases a week worth children not being in school less than 25 days over the last 7.5 months? I think that's a relevant question when we're talking about academics. We're good. That's not a priority now. The mental health, the social emotional, those support services, the nutritional services that so many of our families are asking for. Because I have the responsibility. I hear from the other side who are just as compassionate, as compelling, and Mrs. Grable, wonderful. I appreciate your presentation. Absolutely reasonable questions. But I hear from the other folks too, who are just as reasonable, who are struggling with their children, and I deserve their needs should be part of the conversation as well. So that's the answer to your question.
I know there was a poll of the parents.
Mhm.
I don't remember how long ago that was. How long ago was that? Was that September? late
No,
September,
first,
early
second week of October.
So do we have an idea of how many students we're going to be putting in the school building if we're going back 5 days a week?
We have 148 students who are taking advantage of the virtual academy. If and when the district goes forward with the full return, we will offer a new option for the families who are not comfortable sending their children back, a full remote synchronous model. And I can't guess how many parents will opt into that. Our enrollment right now is, and I have the data, I don't have it with me, we're about 1,250, so we're probably looking somewhere 1,150 kids, and that again, not factoring in the number of children who would opt into a full remote when and if the district moves forward with the 5-day return.
And how many students are in the buildings now
Total, or are you talking
on
each
their
day?
hybrid days?
Shawnee, it's 50% of capacity. Again, I can't repeat those numbers off the top of my head. It's 50% capacity. Probably a little bit more because we have several of our teachers who are bringing kids in on Mondays. I know some teachers are doing some they're meeting the needs of their kids. I know some teachers are bringing in kids every day of the week, specific needs. So to say it's exactly 50%, that's probably inaccurate, probably more than that. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler. Someone else like to address the board?
Okay, Leah Lacrosse, 911 Main Street. And I've been a teacher in the district for over 20 years. I'm over at McCormick right now. And I would say, I can't speak for all the teachers at McCormick, but I can say that we have worked so hard in this hybrid model. We're doing the best that we can to provide the, social emotional learning that we can. We're trying to provide our content. Right now, at the end, at this point, this far into the year, I finally feel like I'm having some success with students as far as being in the hybrid model. So it's been a lot of learning with students, like helping me help them sort of a thing. Mondays are so helpful for us because we can call students in, we can do small group instruction. I have students that are coming in for enrichment science activities. With a reduced class size, I'm also able to meet needs more one-on-one with students. And here's what I don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about the constant pulling down the masks because I have smaller numbers that I'm watching and I can say, put your mask back up on, please put your mask on. Okay, back away, you can't touch, we have to clean this, we have to do that. I know I'm kind of rambling here, but it's hard in a 40-minute period to meet everybody's needs, but we're finally, I feel like, getting there in a safe way. I can't monitor the hallway as much as I want to. I'm constantly worried about kids in the passing period going in the right direction. Are they jumping on each other? Are they doing things that they shouldn't be doing? It's a middle school, so
That's
we have to watch that. And I would just say that I really want to stay in this hybrid mode because I feel like we're having success and I feel like we're doing it safely. It's working right now, and until we get through our holiday season, I feel like the best way to protect our kids is to keep us in this mode. I wrote you an email already, so I know that that's already out there, and I already discussed in September how I really think that given the chance, we can make this work for our students. So, thank you.
Spoken like a true middle school teacher.
Leah, can you give me an idea of how the grades have changed from a normal year for you?
Well, it's the instruction that's had to change a lot. Instead of being more directed, there's definitely more choice. I have choice boards, so what works for you? What do you have help at home? Because if you don't, this is maybe the option that you want to work with. So I think as far as grades go, I do have some students that I'm struggling to keep track of. Just today, Monday, I sent out probably 10 emails to parents and students, you're struggling, how can I help you? I equally sent out about 10 emails to parents, your child's doing fantastic. Is there anything I can do to make this even better? So we have to give more to get more, and we know that, and we're doing that. But as far as a letter grade, I think we're approaching content totally differently, so.
Yeah, the reason I ask is I had an email from a couple parents that said their child was traditionally a BC student and now they're getting all D's and F's. And they are not coping well at home. The online learning isn't working for them and the parents are very frustrated. So I just wondered, from your perspective, what.
And I think if we took our time with bringing everybody back to a full schedule, we can look at too, strategies for helping those families. I don't know what all the principals are doing, but I know that Chad Carter has talked to us about how can we get more FaceTime with these kids? How can we, talk to parents more? So, yeah,
Okay.
and there's no right answer to anything. There's no solution that'll make everyone happy.
Right.
But just from our perspective over at McCormick, and I say that loosely because that's really mine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Leah. Would anyone else like to address the board?
Louise Odie, 412 Gateway, and I wasn't planning on going to speak either, but the hybrid for us at Shawnee is working also, but we want our kids back 5 days because they're little and it would be nice to have them 5 days. And that being said, I just am questioning the timing when it's rising and now we're going to go on Thanksgiving break and be with families and kids from all over, college kids are coming home. And then you're gonna bring them back 5 days, then they're gonna go to Christmas. Why don't we do the 5 days, like the beginning of second, quarter or something that way they can get back from Christmas break and then have 2 weeks kind of to themselves without their family and whatever they're bringing, and then start. I just feel that we're in a routine, the parents are in a routine that they've been now, like you said, back and forth with, we're whole, we're half, and so I would like to see that, and I can't speak for all of Shawnee, but I do think that we've been talking about that a lot, that we just feel the timing of full time is a little off.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Louise. Anyone else? Hi, go ahead.
I'm Sherry Grogan, 729 Salem Drive, here in town. I sent an email, I think, to all of you on behalf of the AGA. Mrs. James and I are the co-presidents. And so I'm not going to read that because it's really long. We supplied some data to Mrs. Hody and Mrs. Lacrosse. The majority of the teachers, like Mr. Murphy said, we want the kids there. We just want it safe. Everyone is concerned for their own families, for these children. We all have personal things going on that we just want to keep everyone well. For the teachers who have had multiple students out quarantined, some students multiple times, they know that that's a challenge as well. And so just with the rising numbers, I think that's the biggest concern. We want to get back to whatever the new normal will be, whenever that happens. We just want it to be what's best for everyone, for the community. This community's been through a lot, and we certainly don't want to, we want to help as much. I know some of you have seen that. We are working hard with the parents, with the students, doing the very best we can as well. So, and we are working tirelessly to try to do that, to make the best of the situation. So on behalf of myself as, a teacher and speaking for students that I know I've had at least one student that told me that she emailed the board as well. There are students who have a lot of anxiety about the 5-day return. And so, we just ask that you, at least give it some thought and consideration. So thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Okay, anyone else?
Dr. Elizabeth Lefebvre, 417 Anchorage. I wasn't really going to speak tonight, but what I keep hearing over and over is everybody wants to do the best thing, and there's so much fear. And I think nationally, we've really come to focus on case counts instead of illness. If you look at our community, how many lives have really been lost by this in our community? Not that many. And everyone's case count, and really it's, in my mind, the severe quarantining that's the issue. To address your concern about social distancing, that's not a mandate, that's a suggestion that was put out by the Department of Health. And if you look at all the neighboring schools around us, they've been back at full capacity, growing elbows, if you will. And they're not really any worse off than we are as far as case numbers. I think we all want what's best for our community, and I applaud and appreciate the teachers' concerns so much. I think everybody's had to just continuously pivot at home, at school, and it's not easy. It's not easy in either situation. And when you're a teacher and a parent, I can't even imagine how that is. I think my point is that if we could focus less on the fear of the virus and more on the greater good of everything involved, you would see more of a balance.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you very much, all of you, for attending tonight and sharing your concerns. And I guess I can only speak for myself, but this has been a very difficult year for us as well. We are tasked with making decisions that boards have never had to make. There's nobody around from 1918 that was ever running a school district. So in some degree, I feel like we're kind of like the rope in a tug of war. You have people pulling us this way, and we have desperate families pulling us the other way. So we are really and truly just trying to do our best. And when you come on school board, your, I guess, mission, if you want to call it that, is that the decisions you make are always in the best interest of the children. And we love our children in Huron, and we want the best for them, which we know academically is being in school 5 days. On the other hand, we also have to look at the physical ramifications of that model. But I want you to know that, you know, we all have just been really torn up. This has been very hard for us as well. And I think up until now, if you look at like all the school districts, we've been the most conservative. And, you know, we're trying, we really are. Please, we're not the bad guys here. We really do want what's best for all of you as well as for our students. So thank you so much for sharing, but I just needed to tell you that it's, you know, we're being pulled both ways, and it's very, very difficult for us. Okay. Yeah, and we will be talking about that in new business, okay? So if you're gonna stick around, if you need to leave or whatever, we are streaming. Okay, so we're on to Randy with the treasurer's report.
It does make it so tough. Let me throw up, a couple things here real quick. I am, I've got to take care of the live stream. Okay, so my report, a lot of items on there, and I apologize, but it's just that time of year, right? Donations for the month of October, $1,307, and you'll see that thing later. The list is in my recommendations. No finance lesson tonight, because you get to listen to my 5-year forecast presentation, so I won't, you know, one lecture is enough, I guess. A couple things on the financial side I want to pull up, and one here. Just a reminder, as of the month of October, we had a little less than 6.5. It's not up there. So, I mean, it's on YouTube, folks can see it, but you can't. But we have a little over $6.5 million in the bank. That's all fun, and you'll see that sounds like a lot of money, but it goes away fairly quickly over the next 2 years. Our investments up there are right now. I had a CD mature today, and just to give you an idea what interest rates are, I renewed it for 0.33%.
Wow.
So obviously, we're not making. We were making a couple $1,000s a month last year, and we're down a couple $100s a month on our investments. That just goes with the territory. You know what? Let me do this. I'm gonna throw it up here. Yeah, hang with me here. I'm trying to share with our YouTube audience as well as you at the same time. So, okay. So, where we are revenue-wise, and I don't know why that thing is. This one crazy. Read those numbers, can't you? Okay, so revenue-wise, we are right where we expect to be. We're 40% of our revenue for the year, and we've got half our taxes in the second half in February. In March, our with respect to our restricted state aid is at 33%, which is right. Remember, that's cut from what we our funding level because of state tax collection. And the big one is the interest. We've only got about 6% of the interest that we So that's a big one at this point. On the spend side, we spent 33% of our budget, we're a third of the way through the year. We're tracking right on where we need to be. So not, nothing surprising there at this point. And again, the biggest bulk of our expenses are salaries and benefits and then purchase services. And so I'm a broken record, so I remind you, purchase services, the two big items are special services, special education, and open enrollment and community school transfers. And by the way, this could get impacted. There's another ed choice bill in front of, they're trying to get passed. Representative Huffman, who has ties to Wyoming Central Catholic, is trying to get more money in public schools into the parochial schools. That's his agenda. He may deny it, but most of us can see far enough to see to it. Our grant stuff is we have our federal grants are all in negative cash balance right now because we are waiting for our application to be approved so I can submit our cash requests. Normally they've been approved months ago. ODE is way behind. I think we're finally there, aren't we, Doctor? Yeah. So, but we'll get caught up. The federal got $100,000, which will always help the cash balance. So that's where we are financially at this point. Let's stop sharing this. Come back over here. Our early retirement program, that the deadline was this weekend. I think we have 5 people confirmed who are taking the global classified. So not many. So we'll look at it again this spring and see if it's worth. You know, there's some certified staff who might be interested a year from now, but it'll generate some savings, just not as much as we were hoping. Building access, you got your badges tonight, okay? I'm excited about this. I thought I would do a quick demonstration for you. Let me throw this up on the screen. One of the beauties of this system is it's cloud-based. So those who have access, right now there's Denise, Mrs. Mashari, and myself who have access, and we can see the activity of any card reader in the district, whether the card works or not. If someone's card's in the system, they try to get in a place that shouldn't, it tells us it was not allowed, that kind of thing. But it also allows me to track every person, their card, if it's active, and literally with 2 clicks, I can change access. So I had a teacher come to me, they needed access to more than what was originally given. Click, click, they've got it, it's done. And the other cool thing for me is, like tonight, if I go down to the door for the board entrance here, it is what is unlocked. I can lock it. The door is now locked, and I would get up any door in the building. And we could set schedules up and all that kind of stuff. It's all cloud-based, makes it really easy. If you have the access, you can do it from your phone, from your tablet, and your PC anywhere. So anyway, your badges give you access to all the buildings. Our request is if you certainly use them, but if you go into school buildings to report to the principal's office, they know you're in the building. Any questions on that? I'm pretty excited about this project, but you'll need a little bit of geek in me. Let's see, where are we on my report?
Mrs. Commons.
Mrs. Property is, we've got a renter and we're moving in this weekend.
Good.
And we've had to do one little maintenance item, the front railings on that front porch, so rusted through, and our maintenance crew is fixing them tomorrow. So I think it's an older person moving in there, and we don't want them leaning on the railings.
Right.
So we're excited about that. P-card purchase program is, as you know, I've been on a crusade since I got here to eliminate writing checks. It's taken a year to get this far, but we're getting vendors to accept a V-card. So think about a credit card that has a one-time use. So when Cindy goes to pay a bill, she gets a card number, she pays that bill, and that card number is no longer good for anything else. That's security. And the best thing is we get a little rebate. every time we use it. So we expect to generate, once we get it going, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year. So not a ton,
Still,
but it's one of those things with some of our bigger vendors, if we negotiate new contracts, like our copier contract, they will take the fee card or we'll look for someone else. We got a $25,000 rebate from Bureau of Workers' Comp, which was a nice little Christmas bonus. Denny's already spent it, but we got it anyway. Our electric contract is up for renewal. I bring it up. It's very complicated. I've learned more about electric contracts than I want to at this point. My feeling, we are with Power for Schools, so it's Ohio Schools Council Consortium, and you take a look at their contract compared to open market. It's like comparing apples and oranges. So I'm trying to figure out what it is. There was a message consistent with what things mean, but what the best path is. I think I'm going to bring to you next month, State of Power for Schools. It's less predictable, but I have the comfort of numbers. We're a bunch of other schools, and I'm not comfortable going out on our own, one of these other independents to buy electricity at this point. I'm just not comfortable with that process yet. That may change in the next 4 weeks, but you have to be a utilities attorney to understand these things. And I stayed at Holiday Inn Express, but I'm not there yet. That's not going to joke for the night. Just a couple, we had a retirement census audit by the state to make sure everyone's in STRS or SERS and we're paid clean. So that's good. Our Medicaid audit, that's always a year behind for FY19 came back. That's clean and good. And I just want you to know, I'm going to be meeting with in the next couple of weeks with the athletic boosters, the music boosters, and the PTO. I'm going to do an annual meeting with them just to make sure that I know they're good. There's no doubt. I just want to put my eyes on it. They're filing their reports so I can honestly report to the board. They're filing their policies, and I'm going to have to worry about it. There is no worry, no concern. One booster officers are wondering what the timing is. The timing is all my own comfort. That when someone says they're Huron, the board has a right to know that they're filing their reports and stuff like that. That's all. And lastly, you got my email today about the tax abatement. I was not going to discuss it tonight unless you want to discuss so many other things, but you saw it's a 15-year, 100% abatement. That's what they're asking for. If they ask for that, then it has to be approved by you. But we haven't started negotiations yet, so we'll have that conversation starting Friday. I know in general we don't like these abatements, but always the question is, are we going to lose the business if we say no? That's always kind of a few questions. And my first position is we got to generate new money from it one way or another. If we don't generate new money from it, then we're not interested. So if you have thoughts on that, I'll update you after Friday's meeting. Okay. That's it for my report, long-winded as it is. All right. And look, the real show, right? 5-year forecast. That's me. Yeah. I'm going to share this. I'm getting busy just to. Okay. All right, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna stand up for this portion. I watch this time to stand anyway. So, 5-year forecast review, we do this twice a year. And thank you for all coming out to the 5-year forecast review, I appreciate it. In all my years of doing this, the biggest audience I've had, so. And my recommendation is let's not have this, or again, for this reason, right? All right. I just tested this before we got here. All right, just a reminder of a couple pieces of data. I'm focused on the financial stuff, but I also want to recognize we're not here to count beans, right? We're here to educate kids. And I recognize that. I really think my heart as an educator really enjoyed the time I've been in the classroom. And this data is a little bit, because we didn't have a report card this past year. I just want to remind you, this is the performance index from 2018, districts in our area. There's Huron toward the upper end. So I just want to talk, our academic performance is at the top end. You can't see this is hard to see, but this is a performance versus cost per pupil. You can see little circles of districts in our area. This is Huron right here. So our performance is above average, our spending per pupil is below average. That's what that says. And that tells me we are getting good bang for our buck. All right, we have districts who are spending a lot more money per pupil than we are and not getting as good a performance. Which is a reflection
And that's a tribute to our teachers. Yeah.
So I put those up there from perspective, right? I'm worried about the money, but it comes down to we've got to do this. Okay, just want to talk about briefly why we're having this conversation. We got just a couple slides on the review and then my thoughts and recommendations going forward. As a reminder, we do this, it's required by law for 3 reasons. Number one, to engage you and I and the community in talking about our long-term financial planning. It's a basis for our 412 certificate. What this means is anytime we sign a contract, we got to say we have enough money to pay that contract out, right? For example, we're in negotiations with the classified staff this spring. That's going to be an important thing when we get done with negotiations. I've got to be able to sign, as well as board president, the certificate that we have enough money to pay for whatever's in that contract. And then finally, and this is the one that is the don't like to talk about, but ODE and state auditor use those numbers to fund at-risk districts. This district's been in fiscal, I don't know, you get the fiscal emergency or fiscal watch, I believe, a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not there today, but as you'll see, we're going to get there very quickly going forward. Lots of resources out there. You have these on the ODE website on how to read the stuff, but I just want to tell you, so you can always go check it out somewhere else. Okay, there it is. Can you read that?
Yes.
Eye chart? Okay. All right. This is the document that actually will get submitted to the state tomorrow. This is still a little bit small, but I'm going to start with the bottom line. This line here, this is the difference between revenue and expenses each fiscal year. So in this fiscal year, 2021, I'm forecasting we're going to end deficit spending a little over $900,000. Just remind you, last year we were at 547,000 loss. And much of that was due to our funding being cut right at the end of the year by the state. And so this $900,000, 250, 300,000 of it is state funding loss. And there's some COVID related stuff. We're trying to get as much COVID stuff used elsewhere, but that's an ongoing battle. Just by inflationary, next year almost 1.2 million and up to 1.4 million. And you can see by 2024, we're less than $1 million in the bank. And you're going, well, that's not, 2023, we're less than $1 million in the bank. Well, that's not too bad. We're borrowing in those years to make payroll in January and February. And then in 2024, we're out of money and we'll be on fiscal emergency in 2023 if we don't aren't able to make some changes. Okay, sorry, doom and gloom. That's all right. This is the expense. I always start with the expense side. It's all inflationary. I have built in, based on our current trends, nothing spectacular. So we're looking at some things for next year, some reductions. Those are not built. I'm being a little bit conservative here. We've not built those in. As we said, most of our expenses, unfortunately, from the personnel side. So we want to see where there's options for attrition. If we eliminate buying paper and paper clips and that kind of stuff, eliminate that $500,000, that doesn't even solve the issue. So the nickel and dime stuff's important, but that's not going to get us there. And I'm not going to, and really, there's no plans, but just to put it in perspective, just things like transportation, we're going to take a hard look at those because we're trying, what things can we do that do not impact the educational process? Because we're we're not heavy. You know, we don't have a ton of, you know, people sitting around doing nothing. So we got to take a look at that. Our capital spending is at a minimum. We just got money built in there for emergencies. If we lose a boiler, if we, you know, something breaks, we got money to repair and get back up, but not really improve. So that's on the expense side. So nothing spectacular there. It's all inflationary. You know, at this point, we're assuming normal step increases for the staff, education experiences, those kind of things. And our insurance is a big thing. Our insurance rate's been pretty good. We had a 5% increase this year, still well below the national average, but I'm putting 8.5% because that's about where national average is. It's going to come up at some point in time. We're going to have one of those years. The expense side, the revenue side, again, we expect revenue fairly flat. There is some inflationary increases on the real estate taxes. I talked a couple of months ago about we're at the 20 mil floor. So that, which means that as real estate values go up, we do get a little extra money. And real estate values are going up. I do have us getting some more state aid going forward, just getting back to state collections, assuming we get out of COVID and we get back to flat funded the way we were 2 years ago. That's all, nothing increased. The new funding, the fair funding formula, which is in front of the House, based on today's numbers, help us a little bit, about $200,000, but those numbers are going to change. Huron is 612 school districts in the state. We are the 35th wealthiest. That's per pupil valuation. So you take all our valuation and divide by the number of students we have. And with enrollment dropping, we look richer and richer, even though we're definitely not. Now, the new model does take into account income, but it doesn't really sway it that much. So we're considered a wealthy district. That's the bottom line. So don't expect any state help. So it is on our backs, unfortunately. All right, so that's all the good news. What are we going to do about it? That's the big question. December at our work session, it's going to be a big agenda item from Denny and I to talk with you. But let me give you some. We've already done some things. We had a family consumer science teacher we didn't fill this year. And that's $100,000 when you talk about salary and benefits. So that was a big deal. We had a bus driver retire. We did not fill that. Because of students' needs. Now, our instructional aides are driven totally by the needs of our students, and we didn't need them. We unfortunately had to riff some. That's helped us a little bit. They'll bring back. And on the food service side, because we have riffed the cashiers. Not big dollars, but it's all those kind of things we're looking at. We're just trying to be as smart as possible. We've done everything we can to shift expenses. The ESSER money coming through. We've shifted as much expense to that as we can. Student wellness right now, our guidance counselors are being paid out of student wellness dollars. So if we didn't have those student wellness dollars, which we expect to continue under Governor DeWine, so that'll be there. We've been able to shift some things there. That's helped us. And then COVID, these CARES dollars for COVID spending, we've shifted as much as we could to that. We've spent our $60,000 for cleaning supplies and that kind of stuff in there. Looking forward, potential negatives are food service and athletics, right? Because athletic side is just we don't have the revenue, right? And we may have to at the end of the year transfer some money to athletics to cover their bills. So for athletics, just recognize general fund covers coaches' costs and transportation, but all the other athletic costs come out of the athletic budget. And then food service, we already had planned that. That one's going to be up in the air with are we going to have full reimbursement after the first year? That's helping us. So the more kids who take meal packs and stuff like that really help us as we get full reimbursement on that. And that will help us. This sounds crazy, but that's the one area that can really help us if more students take those free meals. It's like, please take the free meals and we get money back from the federal government. It's kind of a crazy notion, but that's the way it works, working right now. And there's some other things in food service we're looking at, depending on what happens with full return and not, number of students eating, that kind of thing. Community school transfers are up, and that's just the, you know, other online schools essentially. Our HVA has been, you know, from a financial standpoint, a great thing, because we probably would have lost those students elsewhere. And that's up. Our open enrollment students, the district are about the same proportion. We're just a little more community students going out. Special education expenditures are up. And that's driven by number of students. That's totally student driven. That's, you know, if you have a student who has an IEP, we're going to meet their, we're going to give them a fair and appropriate education. And the last thing I want to say is, I liken this doctor in the room. It's kind of like you got a patient in ICU right now. We're not worrying about the cost. We're just trying to keep the patient going, right? That's where we are in the district right now. So you can't control costs, and we're trying to do everything we can to get the educational process to the students. So that's kind of where we are. I use reactionary, not that the administration is not trying to be proactive, but everything that comes at us, you know, we're trying. It's just hard to control these kind of things, because we've got to educate the kids. That's our number one priority. Then we'll figure out how to pay for it to some extent later. Our number one priority is continue to evaluate spending, and we're asking the question where we're going to get the money from. We got to buy cameras and tripods for the teachers. Where are we getting that? Those kinds of things. We're asking those questions every day, and trying to be smart about it. Priority number two, we need to make cost reductions for next year. My target is $500,000 minimum. If we do that, that extends us another year without getting into a fiscal emergency. And finally, new levy in 2021. And we'll give those, we have to have new money. We're not going to cut our way out of this thing. The only way we cut our way out of this thing are things that's going to hurt students and the education process. And obviously we have to have those in our back pocket, because you can't operate on a negative, or the state's going to come in and take over, and they don't care about our kids.
Yeah, we saw that in 04, 05,
Yeah.
right, Scott?
So I've rushed through this, but what questions do you have? It's always, the negatives are always doom and gloom. I get that, and we got COVID on top of it, but I think we could do this. I think we've got the team, and we're just going to have to figure out how to do this. And next year, get a levy passed in May, the worst case in November, and we'll be okay for 4 or 5 years. We'll be back in the cycle again. I guess my last thought is, we can't expect the legislature to help us. They're just not going to. We're not a fast growing district or a poor district, so we're just kind of out of sight, out of mind.
I have a question. At our special meeting, it was talked about that there were 2 potential grants available for the cameras and the instruments that you're buying for the classrooms.
Yeah.
Has that been secured?
Not yet. HEF had a meeting. That meeting was for, Mr. Slocum's going to talk about a partnership with the foundation. But from the president of the HEF said still bring that up. And I also will have the Huron Rotary is another possibility. So they're not secured yet, but we're still working towards it.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So yeah, we're looking at that, and we're making sure we spend everyone's dollar. You'll be asked to approve this grant that we got today for preschool. Again, we're doing all we can to find that money and use it. Unfortunately, a lot of it is it's covering additional costs, not stuff that we have anyway. But we're doing our best with it. I'm hoping, and that my forecast is conservative but not sandbagging. Okay, so I hope it will come in better than that, but don't expect it to be 50% less. Okay. All right. Any other questions on that? So I'll be asking you to approve 5-year forecast. You have the actual forecast for your thing and my assumptions, and we'll go forward with that. So.
Okay. All right.
That's enough out of me.
Thank you, Randy. Denny, we're over to you for your report.
All righty. Thanks, Randy. Appreciate that. Despite the news. Believe it or not, we do things other than COVID. We do have school taking place. Obviously looks a bit different, but tonight we're going to, before I go into a brief update, complete some unfinished business. If you recall, we have a tremendous partnership with the Coca-Cola Consolidated Bottling Company. And we have something that we created, the Huron Tiger Core Value Scholar Program, that not only do we recognize students who exemplify the core values of Huron City schools, but we also recognize faculty and staff who exemplify those same core values. And tonight, we have the pleasure, and Whitney, thank you so much for your patience. But if Mrs. Steinmetz can please stand. I don't want to embarrass you, Whitney, but Whitney's colleagues nominated her because Whitney exemplifies the core value of humility. And in her, or the nomination by one of your colleagues, it states, Whitney Steinmetz, third grade teacher. When I think of the qualities of a humble person, I think of someone that is open to learning, is grateful, is slow to offend and quick to forgive, and always ask for help when needed, and is patient. Key value now. This is Whitney Steinmetz. Whitney comes into the building every day and gets to work, meeting the needs of each of her students with care and patience. And Whitney, that's from one of your colleagues who recognize the impact that you make on children. So tonight, I would like to recognize Mrs. Whitney Steinmetz for, and this is going back to last March, Whitney, when you were nominated. So for exemplifying the core value of humility. So Whitney, congratulations. Yeah, we need some positivity, right? So come on over, Whitney. We're going to stand in front of the big board there. We'll social distance, of course. And there you go. Again, nobody does it like Huron City Schools faculty and staff. I mean, it's just, I'm a bit biased, but I think I've been around long enough to know quality folks when I've met them in education. So, and Whitney ran out already. So. But that's okay. I don't blame her. Wish I could follow you, Whitney. Next thing, as I said, I want to talk a bit more about other items besides COVID, because things have been happening that are really tremendous accomplishments of our students and our faculty and staff. And Mrs. Green, you stole a bit of my thunder, but our state championship girls, Lady Tiger volleyball team, but we've had so much more success in extracurriculars this year. And I think it's worth special note because of the circumstances that they've had to perform. Obviously, you don't need me to tell you how unique this has been for not only our student athletes, but our coaches, our support staff, and our parents to keep our kids, keep them safe. This year, we've had this fall SBC champions. We had our boys cross country team earn an SBC championship. Huron Tiger football team won a SBC championship, and of course that Lady Tiger volleyball team, they've done it as well. We've had state qualifiers this fall. Boys cross country, Salvador Shear represented the Huron Tigers state championships. And in girls cross country, we had Kennedy Schlesman, who represented the Lady Tigers in state cross country championships. And we also unveiled, thanks to the hard work of volunteers, the Huron Booster Club, and so many others, Mucci Field at Memorial Stadium was a great feather in the cap for Huron City Schools, and I would argue for the city of Huron as well. So very proud of those accomplishments. Mr. Drewer mentioned the HVA, the Huron Virtual Academy. As always, any new initiative that was starting from the foundation up, we've had our challenges, but we've also had our successes as well. Currently, we have 148 students enrolled in the Huron Virtual Academy, and that includes 20 new students for the second quarter. So again, very, very pleased with the work of our teachers and our program mentor for the HVA. Mr. Drew, also mentioned open enrollment. That's always a number that I watch monthly because not only do we have the opportunity to educate children from outside of our region, but they also bring dollars with them as well. So that certainly is vital. As of November 2nd, we were at 124 open enrolled in Huron City Schools. And that number fluctuates literally daily, coming and going, moving numbers around in EMIS. And currently we have 63 children open enrolled out. And that's down a bit from where we ended in June of last year. I believe that's down probably 7 kids, maybe 8 kids. I can't recall off the top of my head, but appreciate that opportunity to educate kids and parents who make a choice to drive their children to Huron City Schools every day. And again, that's a direct reflection of those folks out there and the support staff. So thank you for that. Meal packs. Mr. Drury also mentioned meal packs. We are currently serving over 2,100 individual meals a week, servicing approximately, Mrs. Zilski, 217 participants, families taking advantage of this. We also have a tremendous partnership with the Second Harvest Food Bank and the Ohio National Guard. Again, thank you to Mrs. Zilski for putting together this opportunity. The opportunity that we have a chance to not only provide a service to the families of Huron City Schools, but to the general community. And again, during times like this, when I say we need to practice compassion and patience, I mean it, because I see these folks who are so grateful when we're putting boxes of food in their trunk. People are grateful for that. People are hurting right now. And it's a wonderful, what I think, for our district to have that opportunity to provide that service. It has nothing to do with education. Right now, education is not the priority at this point. It is these general services. So again, I think those are items worth noting. So I would appreciate the opportunity to share those with you. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, back to you, Randy.
All right, I'll have to hear from you a few more minutes. I'll shut up the rest of the night. I semi-promise. Item A is monthly financial statement. These are statements as of close of business October 31st. I reviewed them. We also have it in your attachment, your disbursement summary and other reports. Item B is donations. Like I said, they were $1,307 for the month. Scholarship donations and donations to the Sandy Lunch Fund. I ask you to approve the 5-year forecast as presented. Item C. Item D, we have one contract with Pamela Lally for social emotional learning. Item E, we have one budget and purpose statement for girls' biddy basketball. And item F is the one I snuck in tonight. That is to approve new fund and acceptance of the, let me just write, the Ohio Child Care Resource and Referral Association or something. OPRA. The longest acronym I've run into. They have, Mr. Kushbal applied for a grant and they gave us almost $17,000. This is a preschool grant for COVID relief, mostly for supplies, PPE, sanitation equipment, for example. We're looking at maybe buying some equipment to help sanitize plastic toys, that kind of stuff. Mr. Kushbal got that, and he's nice. I love it when a check just shows up. I go, what is this thing for? And you got to find out why. So that's my recommendation for the money.
Okay. All right, can we have a motion to approve?
I will make that motion.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Mass.
Yes.
Mr. Slocum.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
And Frank, I just want to say again, how appreciative I am that you are getting that to us. This information so early. I don't know about everybody else, but it's helping me digest.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're back to Denny for superintendent recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Item 9A, I would ask board's approval. Mrs. Sarah Reedy, we're going to increase, Sarah is a Title I teacher at Shawnee, increase her minutes to 270 minutes per day, effective actually a couple of weeks ago. And this would be supported by Title I dollars, not general fund. Sarah does a tremendous job with our kids. Item 9B, I would ask for your approval. Mrs. Tricia Rose Kelly to serve as the Huron Virtual Academy Academic Facilitator for grades 7 through 12. Mrs. Rose Kelly also serves as our program mentor. She is a licensed school counselor and a former math and foreign language teacher in a previous life as well. Item 9C, I would ask for your approval. We have 2 substitutes, classified substitutes, and certainly a hot commodity right now around public school districts. 2 ladies will serve in various roles as needed, classified. Item 9D, again, I would ask for your approval of classified educational aides substitute. And these, what we have before you are 2 folks who are on our recall list due to a reduction in force, but we can always use their services as needed as aides, as substitutes. Item 9E, I would ask for your approval of Mrs. Amy Johnson to serve as a resident educator mentor. The RESA, or Resident Educator Program, it's a mandate, and it's a 4-year program, and the language is contractual for this position. Item 9F, I would ask for your approval. Mr. Jordan Stutzman, I believe Mr. Stutzman is in the audience. He is a part-time music department teacher, and when not on the clock with his regular hours, he has the ability to serve as a certified substitute. And again, hot commodity right now, and any help we can get is greatly appreciated. So thank you, Mr. Stutzman, for offering to do that service. Item 9G, I would ask for your approval. Miss Diane Chevalier as a Tiger Kids Club supervisor, effective again November 2nd, and that's just due to the numbers. And because we are a licensed program, one of the only licensed programs in the area that we have enrollment student supervisor ratio that we have to meet. Item 9H, I would ask for your approval and accept the retirement. Mrs. Vicki Garner, a bus driver, and Mrs. Sharon Gunlock, a library tech. And both ladies are taking advantage of the early, I guess we'll call it buyout program. And I would like on the record, thank Mrs. Garner for her years of service as a bus driver, and also Mrs. Gunlock, who also been a tremendous asset to our district over the years. So we wish the ladies well in their next phase of their journey. So I would ask for the board's approval of items 9A through H as presented, please.
Okay. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Scott. Second?
Second?
Jody, second. Call the roll.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, if I may, Ms. Board President, item 10, Huron Virtual Academy grade card. This was a suggestion by parents who have children in the Huron Virtual Academy, and we thought it was a tremendous suggestion. So thank you to Dr. McDonald for working with your team, and I believe you worked with Mr. Ward on this as well, creating the Huron Virtual Academy report card, giving those children an opportunity to share their successes as well. And I know, Mr. Ward, did you have anything you wanted to add regarding that?
Great job.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, that's all right. Great job. Team did a wonderful job. I love it.
All right, thank you. So I would ask for your approval as the board to recognize the Huron Virtual Academy grade card.
Okay. Do we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Paul and John. Okay, Randy?
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 11, we have before you a memorandum of understanding to the current negotiated agreement with the Huron Education Association. And I would like to thank Mrs. Rowan and your leadership on this MOU. This is the MOU that reflects the Huron Virtual Academy. We were able to collaborate on language to, again, to be able to offer this opportunity for our students and our families. And without that collaboration, we couldn't do it. So thank you for that. So I would ask the board to recognize and approve this MOU with the Huron Education Association, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Jody.
Second.
Paul, second. Randy?
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Last item I have, item 12, and this is a second memorandum of understanding. And this is between the Huron Classified Education Association, along with Mr. Schnee. This MOU reflects an agreement we came to with this gentleman. So I would ask for your approval of the MOU. Mr. Schnee, please.
All right. Make a motion, please.
Sure, so moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Jody and John. Okay, Randy?
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mr. Slocum.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That is all I have at this time.
Okay. Does anyone have a committee report that they want to share tonight?
I do.
Okay.
From a curriculum perspective, a lot of kudos have been going around amidst this pandemic, but particularly to Dr. McDonald and her team in doing the best they can, keeping the eye on the curriculum ball with a completely different model, talk of a shift. Who knows what the future holds, but some of the projects that they are in the middle of are reviewing the Woodlands report card for possible revisions. Shawnee's was reviewed and readopted a year ago, so that's they're looking at Woodlands now. Review of the benchmark assessment and its alignment to our K-3 literacy indicator. Review of the science curriculum for grades 5 through 7. Professional development for new technology purchases. They invited professional development committee members to be a part of this planning and the delivery process. These are going on, kind of reinforcing Superintendent Muratory's point. Other things are happening as critical and as apparently all-consuming that the pandemic is. Other things are happening. And speaking of Superintendent Muratory, if I may move to my other committee, one of my other committees, the fall sports wrap up, 90% of it was delivered. So thank you. Save my breath. I didn't catch you saying that girls soccer went 12-3-1. And what a fantastic finish for them under the leadership of Coach Ryan Manor, again, amidst a very difficult time. Boys soccer, just about 500. So we had a successful year. Obviously, volleyball, they did pretty well. The one thing I would say about Coach Don Wood, just taking this opportunity, he's created a culture that is attractive for our young people. People want to be a part of that. The winning, I think, is a byproduct of the culture that he has created. He has now amassed, I believe it's 4 state championships. This is the 5th one. He's had 4. This is the 5th one. I think it's 8 or 9 Final Four. But in other sports, at this school and other schools, when you make one Final Four in a sport, you remember that was the year we made the Final Four. This is habit for this program. So cannot congratulate them enough. So it was a successful fall sports season, especially considering what the staffs and what the athletes were up against.
And that's what makes it all the more frustrating that people couldn't
Go and
come out and watch
I know.
them perform as well as they did. It really was one of those, wow, you gotta be kidding me kind of seasons.
Agree.
Okay, anything else, Paul? Okay,
No.
thank you. And anybody else have a committee?
I got a couple, Donna.
Okay.
I always hate following Paul though, because he's so enthusiastic. I'll see if I can bring as much energy to this. So the Huron Education Foundation met, and pretty interesting, we met with the Erie County Community Foundation, which is really impressive. Their new digs are really, really cool. I guess they're probably a year old or so. So I learned an awful lot. And as you can see by their latest literature, it's all Huron. I mean, up staff members and everything else, and some Huron alumni too, some alumni there too as well. But so we're pretty important to them, as they are important to the entire larger region. The Huron Education Foundation met and agreed to join forces, basically create a partnership with the Erie County Community Foundation to try to be part of their leveraging, because they're bigger and stronger, and they can take our funds and leverage them along with their funds and grow them a little bit quicker, we think, in a nutshell. We don't lose any of our autonomy and what things that we want to do on our own as far as giving out scholarships and all the stuff that we want to do. We don't lose any of that. It's just we're kind of pooling with them, and they've got some pretty impressive numbers, and they really have grown in the past 25 years of their existence. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is the Tiger grants. If you don't mind, I'll just rattle through some recently, real recently, Tiger grants have been given out in the tune of about $5,000, maybe a little bit more. And the folks who were awarded these guys obviously have to get together and work real hard to put together a justification for why they need the money. Starting with just in general, Title I at Shawnee, they've got some money for some decodable books. Jen Telenko got some money for iPads and Apple Pencil. Woodlands, looks like Laura Harkleroad was behind this. Circuit Explorer 2 and bundle. And then Laura Harkleroad again. Portable lap desk with wobble chairs. Deb Finney got some new seating. Diane Berryhill and Rebecca Hoffman got some novels, purchased some novels. Dustin Castor, 3D printer and filament. Morgan Ferguson got some document camera and cable. Leah Lacrosse and students got, is it Kano computer kits? I think that's how you pronounce it, Kano?
Yeah, we just switched direction, but yeah.
Okay, that's what you applied for anyhow, but anyhow, yeah, got it. Beth Cluting got STEM stations. Patty Ryan and Matt Asher got together for Vext kits. So a really pretty impressive total. And as always, you kind of, you got to go for these things to get them. So I'm sure it's a pleasure to give away $5,000 or more. So, no, that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff.
Every year, it seems like she's bringing in the dollars. We appreciate your effort so much. It really does help. Obviously, not just your students, but the whole district of, providing things to enrich their education. Okay, I don't have anything new to announce from you, Hobie. Anybody? No? Okay. All right, so I guess we're on to new business.
I have something that I'd like to bring up. Brings into business. After listening to Governor DeWine's address this afternoon and asking us as Ohioans to slow down because of the numbers, because of the spread of COVID, because of the taxing on our healthcare systems. I feel it is my duty as a board member to I guess I need to make a motion to suspend the November schedule of reopening on December 3rd to 5 days a week. I know that I voted for that when it was presented in our special meeting. I did have a conversation with Mr. Moratori about my reservations and the way I did vote and how I felt I let myself down by voting yes when I felt that it was not the right move to make. So I would like to make a motion to suspend at this point the November schedule for reopening. I would ask that we revisit that in January.
Do we have a second?
I'm just so I understand. So in other words, the motion is that we would discuss it at the January board meeting?
That we would discuss the reopening to 5 days in January. In January. That we would not adhere to the November schedule that we voted yes on at our special meeting on Wednesday to go ahead with a full return December 3rd, but that we would suspend that and we would revisit that after the holidays in January.
I'm just hesitant, I'm with that as far as I brought up at the last meeting also. Similar to you, I wanted to show a cohesive board, and which I still think we are, but I was hesitant because I did feel that, and it was mentioned here today, that because of the holidays and the timing, that it worked out that we were only gonna have 2 weeks and then we were gonna be off. So it seemed difficult there and maybe not the best time. That being said, I just wonder, and again, I don't know if this is the program, I just wonder if that motion sounds like we're gonna leave our administration pretty much hanging. I don't know, Danny, what, is it appropriate for me to ask him if there's some other date or
Do you-
like a special meeting or an earlier time?
Do you want the motion that specific, or can we just leave it that we will revisit it in January? That doesn't attach any date to it. It gives us,
I would, again, what I'm gonna have to do now, tomorrow, is start communicating to parents, to our teachers. They deserve, they need to know. So what I'm asking, if the board is looking to go in a different direction, that we say, okay, we're going to identify, because remember, the second semester starts January 19th.
I guess that's what I'm kind of looking at.
So I would like to be able to have some direction to take back to the team and the family, that's something concrete, that we're going to have a special meeting, if you will, because we have to set tonight the first, well, Randy, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. We have to set our January board meeting. We have to set it tonight because of a personnel issue we have to address in January. But we have to make that in the first, 12 days, Randy, 15 days? I would like that first week of January that we come back, we have got to make a decision that we're going to stick to. And all I'm asking the board to do is we have to utilize the metrics, those key critical points that I mentioned last week. I have to share that with families, the metrics we're going to follow. And we've got to review those metrics. What's happening in the community? What's happening in our district? What is research telling us? What are other districts doing? What is the feedback of our stakeholders? Because we owe it to our families to have a decision, something concrete as possible for that second semester. Families are relying on us. And then there's going to be, some serious discussion tomorrow.
so.
So that's what I would ask, if there is a motion on the table, that I have some direction to take back to our families and to our team.
Jody, why don't you amend it to put a date on it? We will review on January 6th.
Okay.
Or a date. I'm thinking that first week, because I've got to come back and then communicate it, whatever that looks like, to the families and so forth, to give them direction.
Well, since we don't have a second yet,
Yeah.
we're really not talking about a
Right.
particular item that's on the table. Since we're talking in general, wouldn't we want to be giving you that direction more like in December versus waiting till the last minute in January?
Well, I'd like to have the most up-to-date
Okay.
data.
Okay.
If we, December 22nd is the last day. I mean, we still work. I just need some lead time to be able to, so I appreciate that, but I've got to communicate it. Like I said, we walk out with some direction so I can communicate to those stakeholders.
If Joe-
Point of order, Mr. Slocum made a good point. You're having a discussion.
Yes.
You don't even have a motion. You have a motion,
Right.
but you don't have
A second.
you don't have a second. So there's nothing in front of the board yet until you have a second.
But if that motion doesn't get a second, someone could then come up with a new motion.
Right,
That's one way of doing it.
Okay,
right. If there's not a second, it automatically gets tabled.
okay.
So circling, that's all I'm looking for is some guidance, so I can have a
Debbie,
plan.
yeah, as regards to some of the concerns that were addressed during community participation, can you share with us some of the, I guess, the process of how we got to where we got last week? The number of people that got surveys, what that response was, just as far as some of the concerns that have been addressed through emails to the board and tonight verbally.
Sure.
Could you just reassure people of how we got to that point? Now, whether, we'll get to that, to what Jody's asking, but first we want you to know how we got to where we were last week.
Got it. Well, again, as far as engaging the public, that seems to be something that engaging our stakeholders. That's always a critical factor, and there are multiple ways to engage people. There are obviously the surveys. We did the survey in October with our community. We mailed out, I believe, 1,439 emails. We had 300 and a little less than 90 participants who responded, and then we made the cold calls, as I mentioned, asking for input. And again, what I'm learning with COVID, with the way the numbers are changing, you could probably survey daily because the circumstances are changing. We did survey faculty and staff. I know the teachers union sent their own survey out. I did qualitative work, interviewing folks on my own, gathering that feedback, and as I alluded to, working with our teacher colleagues on contract language, meeting with both union leaderships, met with one group yesterday again, and I think we're meeting tomorrow, I believe, Mrs. Rowan and our group. So, and I've asked our building restart teams to come back together. I asked this a month and a half ago, just to start planning on the 5-day return, because make no mistake about it, our ultimate goal is get these kids back. That's our ultimate goal. So we've been planning for that for quite a while. So we've been doing those things. Again, I keep in contact with the local health department. I've talked to Mr. Shade. We're on speed dial anymore, trying to get the latest and the greatest. Talking to my colleagues in other school districts. I know some of us may think we don't, what they do may or may not impact us, but it does, because we share students and we share adults who cross borders to work and live. And obviously I learn from my colleagues as well. So we have that conversation, and that's happening daily as well. Some other items that, again, that we do, again, trying to make decisions, as I mentioned before, and I said this in our community forum, these are emotional decisions. And I know someone made reference in an email that we can't make gut decisions or on speculation, and I believe that that person was absolutely correct. We have to make, to the best of our ability, data-driven decisions. And the key metrics that I look at when I come to you with a recommendation or to our team is what's happening around us. Okay, and then I take a deeper dive, what's actually happening in our school district. That tells me how we're managing it, where things are occurring. Talking to the health experts, following what they're saying and what they're recommending, because I'm not an epidemiologist, I'm not a doctor, I don't investigate infectious disease. I talk to my colleagues from other districts, seek feedback from multiple stakeholders in multiple ways, not just surveys, observing, talking, spending time with people. So taking all of those factors in to best inform our decision-making, with the understanding that every person that I have talked to this point, regardless of how they felt, like our teachers, concerned, parents who are concerned, absolutely reasonable, absolutely reasonable. But then I talk to other parents who say, this isn't working for me. This just isn't working. They're absolutely reasonable and compelling stories. So I could talk to this person and I'm swayed, or I could talk to this person. So we have to come back. And I always say, block out the noise. Okay, so that's what we try to do, but we're servants by nature too, and we want to please. We want to make everyone happy. We want to make every kid whole. It's just, sometimes we have competing priorities here. The safety and what that entails versus the educational needs. Sometimes they're competing, and that's unfortunate, but we have to be data driven, and I probably said more than you asked me to, but I really feel strongly about
Yeah.
this.
I just felt that there were some misperceptions in the community about how we came, that people just thought we just randomly said, hey, let's go 5 days. And there was a lot of forethought, as well as looking at all of our different stakeholders and getting their input. And I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that this wasn't just, oh, we talked to a couple of people and they said, yeah, we want to go back 5 days. That's not how all the information came in to us. Obviously, in the week since we've decided we want to go back to 5 days, things have ramped up in the state of Ohio. And as Governor DeWine said today, not shut down, but slow down. He did not address the schools at all, although he did say last week, the schools are good, go out and live your life. But just do it with the mask, the sanitizer, so forth. So I guess where we are here is, if we feel at this point that we need to just postpone the return to 5 days until after the holidays to revisit based on what's going on locally, statewide. So if you want to.
Well, Jody, is that your motion? I would change it to
Sure, I will amend my motion to ask that we suspend our plan for December 3rd, that we wait until after the holidays to readdress the situation in our community, in our state. And I don't know that I have a specific date, but it would be after Christmas break.
A date that has been thrown around, as a matter of fact, I think Mrs. Rowan, in her letter to us, there was, I believe, a January 19th date, which actually serves a couple of purposes. It gives us some room to breathe, and it's the first day of the second term.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one thing about anything we decide, as we voted 5-0 last week in the special meeting on Wednesday, everything was subject to every time. And this is the one, I've got a kind of a side point. We've kind of put our leadership team in a tough spot.
Mm-hmm.
We took this issue over. And I almost feel like, presidents and governors can make decisions, especially at war. And this is kind of not to be overly dramatic, but a multi-front kind of, fight we're fighting. This is a pandemic, and we're trying to keep people safe. And we're trying to educate people. There's a lot going on here. Well, we make it more complex by saying, you're sending our leadership team the message, don't do anything until we meet next month. Or, okay, have a special meeting. Are we available Tuesday? No, I'm out of town. How about Wednesday? And all of a sudden, we are moving we're moving slow amidst an environment that's moving fast. I, quite frankly, would love to see us pull back and say, Superintendent, you have just like a blizzard. If it's a mess, shut the school down. If things are going great, start the transition process. Now, I don't mind having lively discussion in a very public way. The community deserves to know what's behind these decisions. But I have a level of faith in our leadership team. And an example of that faith, first of all, in August, our superintendent proposed to stay fully remote. Last month, there was a recommendation and he pulled back. So I know there's evidence that we have a leadership team that's not just aggressive about mindlessly going back to school. A lot of data is considered. For myself now, if we're going to vote, I look around at what's going on, not just in our county, but nationwide. If you look at 50 states, governors have the authority to shut down school. Name the number of states that are now in school shutdown. The answer is 0. Name the number of states that are in partial shutdown. Partial shutdown is defined either by age group or the whole state is hybrid. The answer is 8. Actually, Michigan just went to high schools only, presumably because a high school student can stay home alone. I believe it was last night. They became the 8th state only in partial shutdown. Actually, there are 4 states, Florida, Texas, Iowa, and Arkansas, that are ordered 5 days. I talked to an administrator in Broward County, that's Fort Lauderdale. You're going to talk about condensed population. They're at 5 days. What I found most fascinating, how are they making that happen? This administrator described a scenario that was presented to us last week. Students can stay home and watch live. So you have students in school, and really that was what shoved me over the edge last week. If folks are feeling unsafe, they can stay home. And it's not HVA. This isn't asynchronous learning. This is 5 days a week exposure to your teacher. That's actually the one thing that probably I don't like to hear is this, we're going to this place where 2 days a week, our students are doing fine. No, they're not. They're not doing fine. They're safe. They're safer. You could argue that. I would say there's some evidence that suggests, and we have Exhibit A, Perkins, and that could change tomorrow. We could pick up the newspaper tomorrow and who knows what we'll find. That's what I mean about this thing is shifting quickly. But there's evidence that suggests we aren't much safer by hybrid. That's what motivates me and the superintendent's recommendation that we've acquired this technology. So, and then we have the governor. So I mentioned nationwide. So there are 38 states, which Ohio is one, that has no order at all. Our own governor spoke that night, Wednesday night, after we voted, and could have shut down schools. I found it significant that he did not. He could have ordered a statewide hybrid. I found it significant amidst the spiking numbers, he did not. As a matter of fact, his direct quote, one of his direct quotes regarding schools was his concern that it's the spike is outside of school. He's concerned about teachers and bus drivers getting it and not being able to report to work. He didn't even say, and bring it to school and it'll spread around the school. He said, and I quote, "The simple truth is that your local school will not be able to stay open if it can't keep teachers in the classrooms and bus drivers in buses." And what is not said, but what is plain, there is no suggestion that this thing is being contracted at school. Now, can it be? I'm not an epidemiologist. All I can do is look at the evidence. And all I can do is cite a statistic that is not all over the news. That worries me immensely, but nobody's talking about. What are the chances that a student can be hurt because of abuse or neglect at home on a Tuesday at noon versus catch coronavirus at school on a Tuesday at noon? The CDC tells us that 1 out of every 7 students is a victim of abuse or neglect. In a recent year, 2018, as a matter of fact, 1,700 students died as a result of abuse and neglect. When we don't bring students to school, we are neglecting many of them. And some of us can't relate to this because it wasn't our environment. We are neglecting to them what is the safest place in their lives. Now, back to Mrs. Rowan's email, the January 19th request. I think that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable. I would be okay if we were to take the superintendent's tentative schedule and say, instead of the date that is 12-3 return, amend that to 121, knowing, even though we can vote 5-0 on that, we're going to meet in December, things could change. I would be okay with that as a compromise to try to assuage the legitimate concern of our teaching staff and to recognize the numbers are spiking right now.
Denny, could you elaborate just a little bit for maybe our audience and participants here about the remote, how this is going to work, what we've done?
Dr. McDonald, I'll put you on the spot. Do you mind? She can talk much more eloquently than I can of what remote can look like.
So, as we demonstrated last week, no, that's okay. Can I use that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as we talked about last week, the remote learning model would run simultaneously alongside of our in-person model. So if you will, we have HVA, which we've discussed is an asynchronous model where that's available 24/7. Students attend 5 out of 7 days a week. Very flexible. This remote learning model is different in that it would be synchronous and at the same time students are participating in real time in their classroom. So for example, at the high school, if you have band first period, band's probably not the best one to start with, but if you have whatever your first period is, yeah, band's a different beast, if you will. Second period geometry. Let's go with second period geometry. You would get a link that the teacher has set up. The camera's on in the classroom. They would turn it on, greet you, take attendance, and you'd be participating from your desk at your residence. So ask questions, get help, real time. We have teachers doing it now on Mondays. We have some teachers that are doing it during the week. This would be very beneficial for students who are on quarantine. So they might not be showing symptoms, they might not be full positive, but they have to sit out for 14 calendar days. They could keep up versus if they were just out because they were out and then they'd come back, have 14 days or however many school days are in those calendar days to make up their work. That's a big hurdle. So that direct instruction, they're still available. Also too with students who are on IEPs, 504s, or a written education plan for gifted, those services would also continue. So all of that would be available again through this remote model. It is not the same as remoting in during a hybrid model, that it would be totally different. So there's questions.
So what, in a nutshell, your child can go back 5 days, be in the classroom with the teacher, or they can be at home at the dining room table, the desk in their bedroom, wherever, and still be in class. So depending on what we look like in the middle of January, if we have that comfort level as parents, which you didn't see a lot of them here tonight, but they were here last month. The parents that want their kids back 5 days, they are in school. They're getting the nutritional, the physical activity, the academics that they need every day. The parents who don't feel comfortable yet with their kids being in 5 days, their kids still get the exact same school, but they just get it at home. So we didn't have that option in August, but we have it now. And that was, I think, comforting to all of us when we talked. And I think that a lot of people weren't aware of that there were 2 options. You don't have to send your kid back if you're not comfortable with that, and they will get regular school. So I just wanted to make sure that you were all aware that there's 2 things going on here when we talk about a return to 5 days. That there's a comfort level, I think, depending on what your perspective is about where we are at that point in time.
Mrs. Green, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Taking what I think where Mr. Jones and Mr. Ward were going with this, with the something to consider with this proposal on the board. If you decide to go that route, I would ask, and certainly Dr. McDonald, feel free to join me here.
Okay.
We had altered our calendar for next week, November 23rd and 24th. Thinking on the fly here, I would still like to have those 2 days because I really believe in this remote option for students beyond just an option for parents. But I think with this quarantine, et cetera, I'd still ask for your approval to allow us to have those 2 days for preparation, getting acclimated to the cameras and setting up lessons and how that would work to be delivered, utilizing the technology, I guess is where I'm going. So that's what I would ask you to consider, allowing us to have, if you decide to go this route, I still would like, I don't want to wait
Right.
to another time to have to get
Right.
ready for this. That's all I'm asking. Please, for
Okay.
consideration,
So-
please.
Sure.
I'm in agreement with much of what Mr. Ward brought up. And just including the fact that I think kind of unbeknownst, kind of up to me anyway, to all of us, is we made a move to tie the hands of our administration. So I'm wondering, how do we fix that? Or can we? Is there damage now that we always will have to vote? Or can we circle around and say, in this motion or whatever, that we would vote to hold off, and from that point on, it's Mr. Muratori's call? I don't know the wording of that. I don't know if that's proper. I don't know. So I'm kind of asking how you feel about that, or, and maybe
Well,
Randy can help us, or.
yeah, that was something that I kind of brought up this summer, when we were trying to figure out which way to go, that we don't have to take a vote. This is an operational decision, and we can obviously give input anytime. Denny's door is always open for us to give input, but we don't, when we make votes, then we tie our hands and have to keep undoing everything, and I agree that that's problematic. So,
I think we have, the way I see it, we have two options, Mr. Jones. One option is to now do nothing. The superintendent made a recommendation last week to start on the 1st of December.
No.
And then we do nothing, and that rides. And then we don't vote anymore. The second would be to amend what we did last week, going back to Jody's original motion, and then say, we're not going to do this anymore. This is it. Now it's up to you. So like if we pass for January 21st, let's just say, for example, and then say, if the numbers are getting worse, we're going to trust your judgment to keep your eye on the data. We're going to trust the leadership that actually proposed to stay fully remote in August, that you're concerned about this pandemic. Yes, we want kids back. And I cited some other data points of the health of students in general. But yes, we're also concerned about coronavirus. So those are the two choices. Do nothing today, do something and say, okay, this really is it.
okay, so we need a motion and a second.
We don't really, but there might be times, however, when the administration is looking for the board to weigh in formally on issues. And, for a variety of reasons.
Sure. Well, that would always exist. If he felt uncomfortable, okay, there's a big decision, I'm going to recommend to the board that you vote on this way. That's what he does every meeting.
Right.
But there are districts in our area that the superintendent's making the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's both things.
Yes.
There's districts that.
Yep.
they're doing
Goes both ways.
And there's districts.
But I think that's the gentleman that spoke. Hey, I've got a communication issue. You're on, you're off.
I know.
And that's problematic too. And I think we've got to own at least a piece of that puzzle.
Mhm.
Okay,
I
so
mean, I guess I should refer to Joe. You want me to try to figure out where to.
I would still like to keep my motion. I feel
Okay.
like there's been discussion enough. I feel like maybe the benchmark is January 19th, but we don't move ahead with the December 3rd plan that was presented to us last Wednesday and that we all voted for, but that we suspend that. And I don't know how you want me to word this as far as revisiting, or if we're not going to revisit it, we're just going to say January 19th is when the
Yeah,
reopen will start.
If I understand you, I think it'd be simple. If you were to make a motion, as I look at this tentative, and I heard the superintendent talking about, okay, we've got some stuff on there I don't want to amend, schedule professional development, that sort of thing. The first date where students are engaged is actually December 1st. Am I right, Mr. Murtori?
Correct.
Full
That's-
remote. So what if that became, December 1st became January 19th? Would that be suitable for your team?
Yes. That basically models this plan of the gradual roll-in. So, because again, we're asking teachers to do two things that they've not done before. They've not fully a full remote class from distance from the classroom and testing the technology, to take a day for that with instruction though. That's a teaching day. The following day would be the on-site everybody, 5 days, everybody. We've not done that under these conditions. So bring those kids back.
On January 19th.
Well, no, the January 19th, again, if we're following this,
We're working backwards from
Working-
January 19th.
so 19th would be full remote, 20th would be on-site, 21 would be everybody.
Okay.
It basically would follow this plan, and that will allow to become, to the best of our ability, to run that play without ever doing it before. So,
Okay.
and I would ask, obviously, with the unpredictability of what we're dealing with, things can change tomorrow, but I would like to concretely change or share that, whatever we walk away with tonight, to start communicating this to our families with the caveat that's in our written plan that says that that we have to recognize the flexibility and the unpredictability, and change plans will evolve. And we recognize that in July, that would occur. So.
Well, do you want to make the motion then, as Denny presented it, that we still are on schedule with the professional development, but that the actual student return would be, is that?
I would defer to Jody because I would ask, would you like to amend your motion?
I did.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay,
I made the motion in the first place.
Yeah.
okay. So have at it.
I would like to make a motion that we amend the November schedule, that we keep the professional days intact that were specified on that November schedule, but we amend the start date for full remote, the start date for bringing kids back, and then full 5 days to January 22nd. Correct?
21st.
21st.
Yes.
Okay. Randy, does that,
I'm confused.
okay.
I got it, so
We will still,
so you're moving the schedule, so you're coming back the full remote on the 19th, bringing the kids back on the 20th, and then full execution on the 21st.
yeah, correct.
Okay, so let me suggest simplification. That your motion to amend the schedule, move student start date to January 19th.
Okay.
Okay.
You already got the schedule, just refer to that schedule and move from December 1st to January 19th.
Okay. Much simpler.
Could I muddy the waters quickly? It's not really muddying the waters. On this, what you adopted, November 30th was we had that for PD. I would like that be a Tiger Monday, because we need to work with these kids. So I'd like to revisit, if I could, the 30th.
This should let you do that.
It says,
Okay, got it.
Leave it alone.
Got it, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, unless you want us to.
No.
yeah, that's-
No,
We don't
no.
wanna do that, because then we're.
Okay.
we wouldn't have to-
Listen,
right.
listen, I want to be transparent. I've been
Yeah.
told I'm not transparent lately, so I want to be transparent.
Okay,
Not you.
all right, we need a second.
You give me just a second here, we'll try to put this down.
Yeah, let Randy.
Okay,
let Randy
all right.
read it out loud, his too.
I
Okay.
took typing in high school, not shorthand, sorry.
And we're gonna be home before 10.
Not until Thursday.
Oh, I thought that was.
You have to leave the bar at 10
Yeah, or restaurant.
for restaurant. Or now everything tomorrow, right?
No, she said Thursday, I just know it was signed today, that's what I was.
I don't remember the start date of it. I thought it was soon.
How about somebody, motion to amend, return the forward, to amend the return, the full return schedule, November 3rd, the entire day, and student return to begin on January 19th. For the schedule.
Okay. What he said. Do you need Jody to repeat it, or are we good with you?
The key is when I put the minutes out, make sure that we correct it to what you meant. Because once you vote on the minutes next month, then it becomes, we're trying to get the intent to work on the wording. I think we get the intent.
Right.
Take the wording, right?
Right, okay. So now we can ask for a second. Do you have what you need there, Randy?
Mrs. Mass made the motion, then I guess we need a second.
Okay,
I'd second it.
okay. All right, Randy, call the roll.
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes. Okay, motion carried.
Okay, now,
We have one more
we
item.
have a couple, on continuing on this. And I don't know the wording again, but I was bringing it before, again, along with what Mr. Ward brought up. I would like to make the motion to allow Mr. Muratori from this point on to make these calls, to pivot, is one of the, from this point on, now that we've had a motion, it passed. So at this point on, that Mr. Muratori is, I authorized him to do his job. I mean, whatever the proper, Randy, I don't know if you can help me with that too.
How about motion to authorize superintendent to adjust the return to school schedule as needed per, I don't know, what term?
Circumstances
Per
dictate.
circumstances.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, I'm all right with
Pertaining to the
Okay,
coronavirus crisis.
okay, and then we need a second.
I second that.
Okay, Randy, call the
Do we,
roll.
can
Oh,
we
did you,
have
I'm
some
sorry.
questions and comments?
Is there any discussion?
It's really unnecessary. I mean, we might have some compelling reasons why we want to do this, but it is really unnecessary when you think about how the agenda gets created. Superintendent brings recommendations and then we vote on his recommendations. We're saying to him that doesn't have to be a recommendation. So I just want to let everybody know, I mean, really, this is not necessary. He's got that authority already. However, I guess in light of everything, we want to get this on the record. It sounds like.
I'm going back to, we muddied the water though. We've almost made it, again, from my understanding, you are not totally correct. From my understanding is once we have voted on what we did in August, then yes, from then on, it was now in our hands to vote. We couldn't just open, we couldn't just close, we couldn't just go to remote. In this way I understand it. If I'm wrong, I believe I even had a discussion with Randy afterwards and with the OS, the House School Board Association.
If you have made a policy decision, which you have, and unless you give, explicit feedback to authorized to change what you have put in motion, then that is correct. So if you said, hey, we're going back to full remote tomorrow, Mr. Muratori's hands are tied. If you say, we want to go back, we're going back tomorrow, but Mr. Muratori can change that if necessary, then he has a flexibility. There's a little subtle difference there. So by telling him what you want, you're essentially giving an order, right? That's how I interpret the resolution. But, you know, you're right, Scott, in that there are understandings in how to revise code. He's the chief operations officer. Operational decisions are his until you take it away from him, right? I have the ability to pay the bills every month unless you take it away from me. And you can say, no, I'm not going to pay the bills until we approve them. And you could do that. So that's kind of how I look at it.
And that's the only reason I proposed the motion, because I remember that discussion and some follow-up.
Okay, so are you good then?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, go ahead and call the roll.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Mrs. Mast.
Yes.
Mr. Slocum.
Yes.
Mr. Ward.
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes. Okay, you had one more?
So, yeah, so the other thing, which I know will not nearly be as involved. And I don't know whether Randy's either gonna thank me or just, stay away from me, Randy. I understand that we need a resolution or a motion authorizing this, the screening.
We don't need necessarily a resolution. The issue is in live stream. It's frankly, it's not seamless. It's not as good as it could be. If it's something that you want as a board, I think Mr. Muratori and I would like to have explicit direction from you. Please make it happen, and including if you need to put resources to it. Okay, right now I do it as a side gig, and it's not frankly up to quality I would like to represent this board. We may need to get some other help, other technology involved. I don't necessarily, a resolution makes it explicit, doesn't necessarily, but I really like you as a team to be united in what you want, and then we'll do what you want. Because, Jody and John have been very good about, they want the public to see this. I think we have 128 people watching the live.
We've been up to 135.
So it's obviously watched, but it's your meeting. This is not my meeting, not Ms. Muratori's meeting. It's the 5 years meeting, so we want to make sure we do what you want. And so, and that's why I kind of put it subtly to the last month, just kind of set the stages. Tell us what you want, and we'll do our best to deliver it, and not just cobble together solutions.
Very supportive.
So yes,
Yes.
my motion is to take the necessary steps to ensure live streaming. I think I'm gonna say all public meetings of the Huron District School. Is that easy enough? Is that clear? I mean,
We include our work sessions.
if they're open to the public, yes.
Public meeting, yeah.
Okay. They're all our
Finance, everything. I mean,
it's all meetings in public.
okay, that's very good. Thank you. I'm still learning.
It's a subtle difference because it's people, this is your meeting.
Right.
And you have to have it in the public. It doesn't mean necessarily that the public gets to interact with it.
Correct.
So, gotcha.
Did we have a second? I don't remember.
I'll second.
Okay. I'm losing track here.
So quick question.
Uh-huh.
So will you come to us and tell us what you're gonna do a little bit of research on, or you're gonna turn it over to somebody as far as
Well,
bringing the technology up a little bit so that we got a better quality?
yeah, we're gonna have this conversation. The webcam, I think, I can't get all of you in this configuration. I get all of you, but Penny and I don't want to be in the picture anyway, but that's the way it goes. So, but making sure we're getting good voice, good quality control. You can see how I'm fumbling, switching back and forth. That's not obviously very conducive, and I think we need to have a conversation internally on what the best way to go. My mic here is a good mic for this, but I don't know if it's good for what we need to do, and maybe we reconfigure this room and we set up a permanent camera, for example, and a laptop or something I'm not looking to spend a lot of money, but we may need to spend a little bit. That's $140. Okay, that's a decent webcam, but it's not necessarily what would do that. So, yes, Scott, to answer your question, we'll figure something out. The hardest part is really the person resource. Who's gonna do this and what's the best way to get it out there? Because what we're doing now is to say, I set up a Zoom meeting, I'm the only one on it, but that allows me to record the meeting, put it out there on YouTube live stream, and then I can share screens and stuff like that. If I don't do it that way, is there a better way to do it? I don't know what the answer is.
Some of our students can help you.
Well, I'm sure there's, I get a little,
Anybody in the audience?
You won't have to go very far.
I get a little geeked out by it, but I don't have enough time to do the research I'd like to do.
I think there's a potential there.
But it could be good. I know do it, but like one couple that I know have TV stations in their high school and their broadcasting crew does it.
Mhm.
And they have permanent monitors in their meeting room that they put their meetings up on. We obviously do not have that kind of facility.
Maybe Mr. Heiners could do it for community service hours at the high school.
Would there be a reason
Yeah,
to
that
not
would be
include
awesome.
work sessions?
Let's talk.
What's that?
Would there be a reason to not include I'm just thinking, they're so long and so,
Yeah.
if we said regular meetings.
Yeah, regular meetings of the board.
Well,
I don't think you have that choice.
they don't have, no, you can, first of all, there's no requirement to live stream, right?
Yeah, we can do whatever
There's
we
really
want.
no requirement to record.
And I have no problem if somebody wants to watch us for 4 hours.
It shouldn't matter. Anything we're going to talk about, we're in a work session.
I'm actually just
We got
thinking,
some-
relieving you the burden of setting up a camera for a 4-hour work session.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, hopefully that might be my.
We'll want to double
Yeah.
If
check.
there's gonna be one hanging from the ceiling, and much like we have here, some kind of control.
Yeah.
center that it doesn't hurt anyone, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll want to double check just to make
I know,
sure.
that's
Can we
the
pick and
one thing,
choose?
yeah.
I don't think you can.
Because there was a time where I remember being questioned about, we were doing recording and then we quit doing recording. And, that kind of, I don't know if it just made some people uneasy, if someone brought the question up. So if you're saying, hey, we record our meetings, but then all of a sudden for a couple months you don't,
Well,
besides maybe just the optics, maybe it just looks bad.
here's the deal. It really comes down to this, sorry to interrupt you. If it's in the board policy that you're going to do something, you have to do it, right? So if your board policy says you're going to record the meetings, you need to record. If it's not in the board policy, it can be optional. There's nothing on how revised code says that you have to. I record the meetings just for a check on my recollection or your recollection. It's not, I don't go back and re-listen to them unless there's something to question, but they're there as a record and they're all public records then. And some districts don't do it because they don't want to have them available as public record. Right, so it's whatever you want to do. So it's a good practice to record the audio, just in some cases, particularly if you have a contentious board and Mr. Ward says, I didn't say that, right? Not that that would ever happen, all pretty loud and clear, but that's a compliment, by the way.
I'm sure that it
The
is.
streaming could be without the camera, I'm not streaming, it's just having people be able, which I think we should be able to give the opportunity to the public.
Yeah, It's a
To
great idea.
listen in
Let's
from
do it.
home, like I said, we got up to.
No doubt about it, especially now.
We got up to 135, which we never had 135 people.
I think the issues would be,
So,
So we're all hungry. So
We're okay.
Madam President, can we call the question?
I would not make it a policy. I think it's an intent to do it. If we have a night, technology breaks down by no fault of anyone's own, you're not going, oh, we messed up. Our intent is to do it every time unless something happens, what happens if we lose internet.
Yeah.
So
We know
our
that can-
informal affirmation, I mean, we're all saying, yeah, no problem, yeah, no problem. Is that enough for you?
That is enough for me. I just want to make sure that if we're going to put effort into this, this is what you want. That's really all I'm concerned about, and it's my way of kind of coaching you as a team to make a team decision. And the resolution does put it black and white, but it's not 100% necessary.
So we don't need to have a vote then?
Well, you do now.
Oh, did we get a
Oh, we didn't have,
second?
we don't have a second.
Yes,
Yeah.
I second.
Oh, we do have a second,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
The only way not vote is if it was withdrawn. So it's a motion and a second. So you need to act on it.
Do you want to withdraw and just informally give Randy the okay to,
I didn't think that was an option. I thought this whole thing was,
I
we
wanted,
needed direction.
well, I want to, like I said.
I can move that we table that last motion,
You-
all right?
I thought this would be easier. Well, so are you saying if we pass this, it's now a board policy?
No,
Well, if you pass this,
it's a resolution.
it's a resolution, it's not a
Not
policy,
policy.
but you're giving it orders, I am to do it. And if we deviate from it, then I'm gonna have to get approval for some reason.
And if we don't take a vote on it,
Then it is our.
then you still don't know what to do.
no, we can share.
We've
with
let him know
Randy.
our
Yeah,
wishes.
uh-huh.
Yeah, it's pretty clear, right? It's pretty clear what we want.
Yeah.
The difference is, if I come back and say, well, I couldn't do it tonight, I'm sorry, you know, it's the difference between being ordered and asked to do something, right? That's really the difference.
And I think we're primarily asking you to do this just during, reduced numbers and things like that. I don't know that this is something we need to continue to do, because we do have the audio recording. I mean, you can just go on an informal, yes, this is what we want you to do.
Mhm.
I guess that's what I had interpreted our earlier conversation, is you needed just an informal nod from the board to say, yes, we are okay with this.
John's caught, we've had some kind of conflicting advice here, it's just miscommunication. Just how binding you want to be with it, that's really what it comes down to. And I just want your intent. I think that's just want your intent.
Okay, so,
And the resolution does lock that in writing. What you just told me, that's, if I said, oh, I misunderstood, you really didn't want to live stream in March for X, Y, Z, then that becomes a different type of issue.
so since Scott moved a table,
Well, you've got a motion in a second, so.
okay,
So Mr. Jones, it's, you either gotta call the vote, or he's gotta withdraw the vote.
Okay, what about, so I don't have a problem if we just record it.
so,
I mean, I guess I'm just making sure that we're doing, like, we're in the 21st century. And that every meeting, city council, every meeting, you can listen in during the live thing. And I think we should do that. I think in all fairness and use the word transparency and openness to the public, that's something that we need to make sure we do.
right,
So if we can do that without a motion, I can withdraw it. Somebody just has to tell me that that's the truth.
I think that we should just,
Mr. Jones, are you saying that we should be recording it, or we should be live streaming it, or both?
You know what? I'm going to stick with my motion
Okay,
instead of muddying it even more.
so
Because I made a motion, I second, it can be voted down.
Call the question.
all right, call the vote.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Nance,
Yes.
Mr. Slocum,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mrs. Green.
Yes,
Okay, so we'll all that fun discussion. Look, I'm gonna put on my coach's hat for just a second here, and I struggle with this, having been in your seat for a lot of years, is these discussions, while agonizing sometimes in terms of frustrating, are good. I think as a group, we're gonna become a better board, we work through these things, so I appreciate the conversation, even on the simple issues.
So I appreciate your help and your input too. And everybody, I mean, I'm
Try not to step on.
It's probably a good item for every organizational meeting too, going for, who's our communication person, point of contact. Do we want to stream our meetings this year? Do we want to record our meetings this year? It's probably a pretty good question for organizational meetings.
right.
Well, I agree
Work
with that.
session.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Jody's point, I mean, I understand her point too. It's her time.
Definitely,
Definitely,
yeah,
but
yeah.
even in the past, I mean, how many times was I the only person in the audience?
We're supposed to turn these.
Right.
You know, so,
Oh, yeah.
You want these back today?
Yes, you did.
So,
okay, so.
Okay, so we needed a motion to adjourn.
oh, we're
Right.
going to adjourn, once we got,
The meetings.
we have our next regular meeting is December 15th, we have a work session December 11th. We need to set the January date. And we normally wait till December to do this, but we have a personnel matter that needs to be dealt with. And so we need to get, have our attorney present.
Right.
So,
Randy gets
And
it.
six was the piece that's thrown out.
The
well,
sixth.
our attorney is available
I mean, it's
December
not cool,
5th
but
or
it's other
13th.
things.
December,
January.
January 5th. And we
Sorry,
thought the 13th just because it gives more time to prepare, but I'm okay with the 5th. And remember, that night we have our tax budget hearing, our organizational meeting, we'll have a regular meeting, at which time we will have, we'll have a personnel matter, which will be our attorney here.
Right. Okay.
And so we want to make sure that he's on the clock when he's here and we're not paying him any longer than we need to.
Right.
can I just ask you a question now? Would it be possible, again, I don't know, can we just move? Right now, I have January 19th, I don't know if that's in stone.
You can't have your meeting.
Oh, okay,
We have to
That way.
meet before the 15th.
Your organizational,
No, that's what I'm
your
saying.
regular meeting can still be
But-
there, but your organizational meeting has to be first 15
okay,
days, right?
but that's what I asked.
Yeah.
Can we have, in other words, we don't want a special meeting and then meet again on the 19th,
Right.
right?
If we can avoid
So
it.
this 19th is probably just,
Right.
when I set this up, I did recurring, I just blocked it. Okay,
Yeah, the first meeting in January has to occur before the 15th.
gotcha, that's what I was asking.
So, like I said, we talked with the attorney, the 5th and the 13th are his best days, is that
Yeah,
right?
I believe, sign on my notes, but I think the
Well, we said the
15th
5th,
was.
that's a Tuesday. The 6th is Wednesday, and he was open that week. He's not open on the 12th, he was open on the 13th. So it's whatever works best for you, and we're moving this to January because of union representations is not available till January. So it's
So we're doing that.
So give us our options, the 5th or the 13th.
well, that's our choice. The 6th could work too, but we're thinking the 5th or the 13th.
Okay. What day is the 5th?
A
Tuesday.
A Tuesday.
And
Okay.
Wednesday is the 13th.
Okay.
And are we doing this at 6 PM?
We would do the tax budget hearing at 6, followed immediately by the organizational meeting, followed by the regular. And the tax budget hearing normally doesn't take very long.
Right.
Organizational meeting is zip through, so 6:30, we should be into the regular meeting. And there'll be an executive session, we'll talk about that December 11th.
Correct.
There'll be an executive session right at the beginning of that meeting.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
do we have to make a motion for this?
No, we're just,
He just
want where
Okay, no problem.
We'll put a motion in
Paul, is that
front of
okay
you
for
for
you,
all the
Scott? Is
dates.
that okay?
meeting
What
13th.
what date is it? 13th?
Right? Is that what you
The
said?
The 5th.
Oh,
I have
5th.
January 5th.
I'm sorry, my
I'm
5th.
all right
Which
with the
date do you
5th.
want? That's what we're asking.
I'm all right with the 5th.
Okay.
5th.
Yes.
Because that gives us plenty of time for other later in the month, right?
Yeah. We need to do something. So I appreciate that. We'll, at the December meeting, we'll have the calendar for the year for our meetings, but we wanted that meeting in order to schedule the attorney and to schedule the meetings.
What was the time on it?
Okay.
I said 6 PM
Six,
still.
6.
We're not meeting early
6
for the
o'clock,
tax.
yep.
Gotcha, thank you.
Okay, now can we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
Where I got that,
Ready? Call the roll.
Mrs. Mass,
Yes.
Mr. Ward,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes, please.
Mr. Slocum.
Yes.
Oh, listen to you. He's starving to death over here. Okay, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you, everyone. Oh.
No. It really wasn't. Right. And I really do. To me,
If you don't have any, put it back in class.
Thank you, Mr. Ward, Mr. Slocum. Thank